Director at Indian Statistical Institute, Professor Somnath Dasgupta, INSA Senior Scientist in ISI, but I know him many other ways, so he wears many hats, important hats. Professor Guru Prasad Kaur, President of the ISIWO. Friends, it's really an honor for me to be called upon today. As a matter of fact, it's a pleasure and a sad day for me, primarily because I did want to come to this function to meet my old teacher, Professor Amrish Ghosh, who was supposed to be here today, and I'm sort of filling in his position. So it is kind of sad that I'm unable to see him. The atmosphere has gotten a little serious, so I'm going to try and reduce the seriousness of the atmosphere, keeping in mind that what I will say will not dishonor our founder, Professor Mahalanobis. So it was on 3rd of August 1970 that I stepped into the premises of the Indian Statistical Institute. Came in to join the BStat program, and that was the day when we had passed our exams, the entrance exam, and that was the day when the registration would be on, and we went to the 3rd floor of the main building where the dean's office was located, and we filled forms, etc. Then we were asked to go to the medical unit, usual chores, but then we also took a tour of the institute and sort of roaming around here and there, and some very funny things we noticed. One of the funniest things that we noticed was that there was a cow shed, and with milch cows in there. So we were wondering that, we are coming to an educational institution, and what is a cow shed doing in this institute? And then we walk a few more steps, and we find that there are a lot many tailors sewing, whatever they were sewing. And we walk a few more steps, and we find that there is a bindery unit. So we said that we imagined that we came to the wrong institute. Is this where we really wanted to come? All right, so that was how we spent the morning. 2 o'clock, our first class, and we encountered a new word called naive. We didn't even know how to pronounce this word with I and 2 dots and all of that. So this is naive set theory. This is what we are supposed to learn, and we have our teacher, Professor Ashok Moitro, who is no more, coming to the class and with impeccable English. Unbelievable. I mean, we had not heard that diction. So he comes in and starts teaching, and he starts teaching about Russell's paradox. Gosh, first day, first class in ISI, and we are hearing a paradox. Unbelievable. But anyway, he goes on. I don't think many of us understood. I know that Monoranjan, my classmate, is here. Don't think that many of us understood what he was talking about, but he was one of our best teachers. Middle of the class, and I'll tell you this because I have a conclusion to tell. Middle of the class, he lights up a cigarette. With 3.0, the fan is on, and he's able to light up a cigarette. And Will's filter, that was the height at that time. And start smoking in the class. And then we see another person who calls himself a non-smoker with a cigarette on his lips, pacing up and down in front of 3.0. His name is Liam Paul, and he says that he doesn't smoke. This is unbelievable. And what kind of an institute did we come to? It was hilarious. Later we realized that this is liberalism in ISI. ISI's atmosphere was extremely liberal. Teachers and students did not have a hierarchy. You could say whatever you wanted to a teacher, and we were friends. So in some ways, the liberalism in ISI actually affected us. It took us by surprise to begin with, but later we got used to it, and then we started to appreciate and uphold and celebrate it. So that was very interesting from the point of view of ISI. Later, those of us who have been interested in the history of ISI, in 2002, I.G. Patel, who was associated with the ISI, wrote a book, and in that book, he also expresses surprise. He says that when he visited the ISI for the first time, he was absolutely stunned by its sylvan surroundings. He was stunned by the impeccable hospitality, and of course, that hospitality was in Amropali, given by Rani Mahalanobis. and he was surprised by the intellectual fervor in ISI. He was astonished by the amount of intellectual debate that was going on in ISI. This is in 2002 when he writes this book, and all of this is happening, I suppose, in the early 1950s when he was associated with the Indian Statistical Institute and planning and all of that. So this is what ISI is all about. It's about liberalism. It's about autonomy. It's about, when Mahalanobis, for example, wrote his trust deed. In the trust deed, we find words that, the Indian Statistical Institute stands for development of knowledge, for serving humanity, and for progress of India. So this is what essentially national development, this is what India stands for, and ISI is a representative of that kind of India that is trying to push forward, and ISI is promoting the push forward of our own country. So this is what Mahalanobis propounded. Was he surprised? Was he sad at some points of time in his life? He actually was extremely sad. He was very sad during the middle 1950s. Incidentally, I'm going to not preempt my talk. I'm going to give a talk this afternoon. I've been invited by the Retired Employees Association in ISI to give a talk, and that will be a full-length talk. But I do want to mention this, that Mahalanobis was actually very frustrated during the middle of the 1950s, and he had written a speech that he gave at one time, and the reason for his frustration were two. Number one, curbing of the autonomy and too much of interference by the government and not providing funds to ISI. He actually said and wrote, and I didn't come prepared with quotations, etc., so I may not be able to actually quote verbatim, but essentially what he said is that it is best to give up ISI to the government. At least the workers will get their salaries at the end of the month. So to ensure that, he proposed that let me resign and let us give up the ISI to the government, make this a government enterprise. Of course, at that time, after he gave his speech, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru intervened, and ISI continues to remain as an autonomous institution. From time to time, we do hear about curbing of the autonomy, but I, for one, would actually uphold completely sold on the belief that academic institutions must be autonomous. But at the same time, we must use our autonomy in judicious ways. We must not use our autonomy in any way that we like, at least not orthogonal to what the country is thinking. But the autonomy needs to be upheld, and I hope that ISI will continue to be an autonomous institution, although there are lots of times when we feel that this is really being curbed, and I hope that those frustrations that our founder felt during the mid-1950s will not be felt anymore by any of the current leadership of ISI. I won't belabor this point anymore. It's been really a pleasure for me to be associated with ISI for such a long time, and I really appreciate the fact that ISI celebrates the Institute Workers' Day. Of course, the Statistics Day is something that we take for granted, but that the Institute celebrates, really pays a lot of respect to the workers of the Institute by celebrating this day as the Institute Workers' Day. I'm not very sure that there are many other institutions in the country that respects its workers by celebrating an Institute Workers' Day. So it's ISI is different in many respects, and I hope that we can continue to be different and continue to be provocative, continue to be constructive in many ways. And actually, in some ways, I will end this whatever I have to say with just this, that ISI continues in many ways, and some of us who are interested in ISI get to know these from time to time. ISI continues to promote national development in many ways. Unfortunately, what comes across oftentimes during the current state of ISI is the bickering that goes on within ISI. We do not uphold the major contributions that we are making for national development. And believe me, I can give you at least 5 examples right now in the last 5 or 6 years that we have contributed to national development. Those actually don't come to the fore. It's the bickerings that come to the fore, and therefore, sometimes ISI, in the common man's eye, they feel that ISI has just gone down the drain. That is not it. We need to uphold the kind of contributions that we are making towards national development, and I really hope that we can continue to be vibrant, we can continue to contribute to both knowledge and to national development, and in spite of all of the debates that we have, which is what I.G. Patel actually also was astonished, but was very pleasantly surprised that such debates go on in an institution. Let those debates go on and end at a healthy zone. Thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to be here on the 129th birthday of the Statistical Institute and the founder. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your valuable